This is Mel K. She's the deepest of conspiracy theorists. This is part 3, but if you haven't seen the other parts, don't sweat it. You don't need to see the other parts to understand what's happening here. I'll explain context if it's missing. In the previous part, she espoused some absolutely unhinged conspiracy theories that are obviously being pushed by Putin. It's the same stuff we've been hearing from the Kremlin. Apparently, Mel K and her circle of friends believed it. She's about to tell us about how Donald Trump saved the world by exposing the deep state for who they are and delaying their inevitable global takeover. It gets wild. Let's watch.
He knew this whole plan. This is why when people pick on Trump for being a billionaire or whatever, the good thing about that is he knew what they were doing. That's why he was there. That's why he ran. The whole plan was to have Hillary win. This would have all been implemented already if Hillary won.
See, Trump saved the world. He came in and blew the lid off of everything and prevented people from succeeding in their evil plots and all this. Oh my God, dude. These people are absolutely unhinged, honestly. Absolutely unhinged.
She's in on this. She's in the central banking cabal. Yeah, all of them are. There is no difference between Bush, Clinton, and Obama. They're all in on it. They've been the whole time. They're in on the one world government. They're in on the Great Reset. They were chosen. If it wasn't for Donald Trump, we would be totally enslaved. And that plandemic was coming with or without him.
Plandemic. Love it. Love everything about it.
People need to understand.
Really? They were going to do it even when he was there.
Oh, yeah.
And which they did do it when he was there, of course. But are you saying that Trump, before he said, I'm running for president in 2015-ish, or whenever he announced that, did he know this was coming even
Yes.
back then? And did
Yes.
he run in order to thwart what was coming?
I think that.
Oh, dude, come on. Like Trump knows anything at all. Like he's anything more than a gigantic orange baby. Seriously.
Thwart all of it. I think, and it's not just him. I believe that there's people behind him. But I'm
Right.
telling you, this whole entire agenda, Great Reset, the Build Back Better, the Agenda 21, which turned because of Trump into Agenda 2030 because they lost time. This is about enslaving humanity in a track and trace, full surveillance, behavior modification, behavior control model.
Wow, that's a lot. That's a lot of buzzwords. By the by, Agenda 30 and Agenda 21 are a little reference to that there. They believe that they were trying to implement all of this stuff, like she said earlier, back in 2021. That was the original plan, but Hillary was supposed to win the 2016 election, and she didn't. So Trump winning the 2016 election basically threw a wrench into everything, and they had to change it from 2021, Agenda 2021, to Agenda 2030. That's what she's talking about there. It's just complete nonsense, obviously.
That is no different than Nazi Germany. It is no different. And it will include the same thing, because look at China. How they have concentration camps that everyone's ignoring. It's not just the...
No, people are not ignoring that. We're all very aware of those camps in China, and I'm absolutely disgusted by it. But what am I going to do about it other than talk about it and pressure the government to do something about it? And honestly, what can Biden do to stop the camps in China? He can put pressure on China to some degree, but they're set, dude. They're not budging on this, sadly. I don't think. There's very little anybody can do, unfortunately.
It's anyone that has a social credit score or a predictive policing. They're not, people are getting...
Okay, now she's talking about, what is it? Minority Report? Or is that what the name of that was? Minority Report? It's that TV show. I think Tom Cruise might have been in it. About where they were predicting, like, if people were going to commit crimes or whatever else. That's science fiction there, Mel. I mean, I guess hypothetically it's possible that they might try to implement something like that. Like some government in the world will probably try to, mostly authoritarian dictatorships. I don't think even China does that. Predictive policing. I really don't think there's any, will or basis for something like that to take place, but I don't know. So many people believe the BS without a shred of evidence, yeah.
Arrested in China for their behavior because they might commit crimes. This
Really?
is all...
Are you serious? Are you
Yes.
serious?
Well, she has no idea, actually. She can be completely serious and have absolutely no clue if any of this is true or not. And that tends to be the case. Like, she has no idea what she's talking about the majority of the time. But let me just step back a couple seconds and listen again.
Predictive policing. They're not. People are getting arrested in China for their behavior because they might commit crimes.
I have not heard a word about that. I mean, I wouldn't put it past China to be one of the first to try something like that, but I don't think she has any reason to believe what she's saying right now. I think she's just fear-mongering, trying to scare the shit out of people, honestly, which she's been doing this entire time.
This
Really?
is all,
Are you serious? Are you
Yes.
serious?
And this is all connected.
When you talk about China, I've been told, and again, I have no idea if this is true or not, that there's
Maybe you shouldn't say it then. Certainly not on this conspiracy theorist Facebook page. Like, sometimes I say things that I'm not 100% convinced of yet, but I'm not a conspiracy theorist. Guess he doesn't think he is either. Like, the other day, for example, I said I heard a rumor that the QAnon account was up for sale after the 2020 election. I heard that it was up for sale for $1 million. That's a little rumor that I speculate about and engage in from time to time, mention here or there. That's not really conspiracy theory. That's not like there's a group of elitists who are trying to control you and brainwash you and all this other stuff. Little different.
there's two groups in China.
Right.
There's the Chinese Communist Party in
Right.
China, and then there's the other Chinese leaders who are not part of the CCP. Now,
Right.
I don't know if that's true or not. What's your discernment on that? What do you know about that?
Well, I believe
She knows nothing about that. But let's see what she makes up to make her sound smart or make it sound like she actually knows what she's talking about.
that that's true everywhere right now. We can see. My feeling is that the G7, when Trump went and invited Putin, there was some kind of situation where there were heads of nations all over that want to end the central banking cabal. What I am talking about right now, Bank of International Settlements, and then the central banking cabal is behind everything I'm saying, including debt slavery of all of our countries. They want to do this new natural asset class where they control all of nature and we can only rent it. They're buying up all the housing all over the world so that we can never own any housing or have any property,
Who is they? I mean, yes, people are buying up houses right now. It's mostly corporations, and that's a big problem. But, she's not saying corporations are doing it. She's saying that the cabal is doing it. Who is this cabal, and what are their ulterior motives in her mind? Because there are certainly ulterior motives. This is all part of a grand conspiracy that they're trying to enact. Right? From last I heard, there's a company called Zillow, I believe, who runs a website that people use to, rent houses or to buy houses or whatever. They've been buying up houses that they were listing and then listing them for a slightly higher price and messing with the market, artificially inflating it, and that's crooked and all that. That's not a centralized, nefarious effort to control the housing market by a group of people who are trying to create a one-world government. Like, these are very different concepts, Jewish, atheist, Luciferian, LGBTQ demons. Yeah, that's exactly who's running the cabal.
which is part of freedom and liberty and America, but they're doing it in front of us. This is a financial slavery model because
Your mom's doing it right in front of us.
in this world, if you don't have access to capital or money or food, because it will include the food. If you're watching what's going on with our food, I think we talked about it last time.
Yeah.
It's the same people. We're talking about Bill Gates, Eric Schmidt, Larry Fink, George Soros.
Dude, they live in a delusional fantasy land, honestly. Food prices are going up right now because Russia attacked Ukraine for no reason. Ukraine supplied a lot of the food, or a lot of the wheat, I think, and a lot of the sunflower oil and sunflower seeds to Europe. And now that Europe has a shortage, I mean, ultimately, we're all kind of sharing the same food sources and stuff. Like, we're all getting food from similar places. And if we can't get food, or I'm sorry, if Europe can't get food from their original sources, then they're going to get it elsewhere, which is where we're getting our food too. Like, food shortages in Europe affect us, is my point. Food shortages in Europe affect us too, ultimately. Because people aren't going to go hungry. They're just going to find another place to get their food, basically. For the most part. Well, developed nations, generally, I think. So, the food shortages that we're experiencing right now, or the jump in food prices or whatever else, all of that is a direct result of Russia attacking Ukraine. But she's got to find another person to blame for this. So she's going to blame the cabal, the globalist, Illuminati, one world government that's trying to control everything and everybody.
You know, Klaus Schwab, there's a handful of
Oh, she's going to blame Klaus Schwab, too.
people, but they're all connected to the World Economic Forum. And Bill Gates and the CCP run the World Health Organization. And now
so
they
when
want
you
to implement that, which would be this track and trace ID, will be through them.
when you say it's the same people, let me kick it back in my own words to see if I'm saying it right. It's the same people that try to control the airlines and the transportation. It's the same people that try and control the banks. It's the same people that are controlling the credit score. It's the same people that are controlling all of these different things you've mentioned. It's not all these different evil groups. It's the same evil people doing all these things.
Give me a break, dude. Come on.
Why we win.
Yeah,
That's why we can win.
Let me ask this. I'll see if I can pull this up. You did say that they own most airlines and things like that, but how would you then respond to, okay, there's a public corporation, let's say United Airlines. I'm just picking that out of the ozone. And there's millions and millions of shares. And the public owns them, or do they?
They don't.
Okay, she obviously has no idea how the stock market works or how publicly owned shares work or any of that stuff. But what she's saying is they don't, like, the public doesn't own shares of American Airlines or whoever they mentioned because BlackRock is handling some investments for some of these companies. This is just pure delusion all the way down. It's delusion mixed with a total lack of understanding for how the stock market works, which I'm afraid I may have to explain in a minute. It's a complicated thing, but okay, let's keep listening.
And how do you know they don't?
Because at the very, very top, we could do a whole show on it. At the very, very top, the Class A voting shares are only owned by these people.
Class A voting shares are only owned by... Okay. Well, when you're dealing with, like, the stock market and, like, shares of a company or whatever, there are some shares of a company that you can own that allow you to kind of vote on the direction of the company, vote on board seats and who is on the board and things like that. That's not necessarily true. There are normal people who own voting shares in some of these things. I feel like that's a little broad, like what she said. They're all owned by these people. And who are these people that she's even talking about anyway?
Are only owned by these people. The people in America, I mean, even we saw Warren Buffett last week say the entire stock market is a gambling ring. It is a Ponzi scheme. And at this...
Hey, that's fair. I don't... It's not a Ponzi scheme, and it's not a... Okay. The fact that she used that word tells me she doesn't even know what a Ponzi scheme is. But, yeah, I mean, I guess the stock market is kind of gambly. It's a little bit gambly. That's a fair assessment.
Point, literally, it's the board members. And if you look at the board members of the big corporations, they're on several boards. It's not one or two. But I am telling you that at the very, very top of all of this is a small group of people that are manipulating us. And it's the crowns included. It's world.
Honestly, I wish she would just use the word Illuminati. Just be straightforward. Just lay it on the line for us. Call it what it is. The Illuminati.
But in America, at least, No, the voting shares, the Type A stock voting shares, are owned by this small group of
So
people.
those that meet and can decide this issue or that issue are I don't know stock that well, but are only type A can vote. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, yes,
Okay, and
yes.
you're saying of those that have voting rights, they're all the
In
cabal?
on it.
No, no, they're not all the cabal. They're not all in on it. Now, to own a share like that, you have to have a lot of money. They're very expensive. To be able to influence a company by owning shares, or at least to influence it enough that it would mean anything, you would have to like have a lot of money invested, basically. So naturally, you would have to have a lot of money to start with in the first place. It's not that they're all owned by the cabal, unless you're defining anybody that has enough money to own a share of stock as being a cabal member. I guess then you could say it's all owned by the cabal, but whatever.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
or the
Yeah. Well,
majority?
they're all committed to the Great Reset, World Bank, one world government model.
Wait, every single person who is invested in the stock market and owns voting shares in any company at all, every single person that fits that description is in favor of a one world government and against climate action, or in favor of climate action. Is that right? Am I reading this correctly? That's what it sounds like she's saying. That is a broad category, dude.
That is in cahoots with the IMF and our central bank. Our central bank is fully in on it,
So if
and then that's
so
where
if,
everything goes.
so if Warren Buffett, and I've had a question about this, he's the one that's saying it's a gamble,
Well, she's going to pretend to have an answer.
it's a gambling, it's like a casino. Is he part of the whole thing, or is he warning you about being part of the whole, where is he?
Let me guess at what she's going to say. I'm going to guess what she's about to tell us is the Luciferians always have to tip you off to what they are about to do. It's part of being a Satanist. If you're a Satanist, you have to tell people the secret.
Come in on this.
Well, I mean, he's certainly there was a meeting called the Good Club. It happened at Rockefeller Institute. Gates called it together. He was there. It had a lot to do with the pandemic. It had a lot to do with
I love how she casually uses the term pandemic unironically. I eat it up, honestly.
the climate change, using this to control behavior and behavior modification and depopulation. So that's true. But I have seen him many times in history warn that what was set up is not sustainable, and and more and more lately, listen, just like Elon Musk, look, these people at some point are watching the beast, I believe, this evil, this demonic possession of humanity really go to off the rails. Everything they're doing is somewhat absurd for a free humanity.
Yeah.
And some of these people actually do believe in God and do not want to go to hell, and do believe in hell. That's the other thing. Those people don't. And
Most people who have a lot of money don't believe in hell. Interesting. Okay.
are watching this happen. They have children and grandchildren. And I just think a lot of people are starting to really realize that it's going in the wrong direction for humanity. And
Yeah.
that's
It
where
seems-
we are.
It seems like Musk, who people say he was trained up under the elites.
So this video came out May the 20th? Yeah, May 20th, 2022. So this is around the time when the far-right conspiracy nuts and extremists loved Elon Musk. Now, at this moment, as far as I know, they're not Musk's biggest fan because Musk and Trump had a falling out recently. They don't really like each other anymore, apparently. And as a result, the right has largely turned against Elon Musk, surprisingly. But yeah, here we are. So I think if I had to guess, I'm going to assume that they're going to speak highly of Musk in this.
he was trained up as a young man, and he was a member of the young something. I don't know.
I don't think he was in that, but
He wasn't in that?
the young global leaders.
He wasn't that.
I don't
wasn't
think
in that?
so. He's been involved with the World Economic Forum, but I don't think he comes from that. But he does come from wealth and power.
Okay,
in
so
South
and
Africa.
you and I talked offline, and there's people that we both love and respect who disagree with this. But you and I talked offline, and our conclusion was Musk seems to be a white hat, a good guy.
Yeah, see, I figured that they were going to be in favor of Elon Musk because he's been trying to cater to the far right for a while now.
Is that about
Well,
right or no?
It's unclear because his whole AI transhumanism agenda and a lot of things from the past are odd. But you know what I like? I like some of the things he's doing now. And I really have to judge. Listen, the world has changed dramatically. I tour with General Flynn, and a lot of times people say, oh, he did this, he did that. Well, whatever. I'm looking at what he's doing now, and this man's fighting for our country.
No, Michael Flynn is a complete nutcase. He's a nutcase that has gone out of his way to manipulate people and position himself at the very top of the QAnon movement and make people believe that he is the guy writing the Q posts. Now, he's not the one writing the Q posts, but he's, gone to great lengths to make himself extremely influential in the movement.
Never seen anything. He's 60 years old. He's here in Chicago. I just saw him in South Carolina. He's been to 2 places in between. I see somebody that's getting out, meeting folks face to face. That people say, he's running for office or he's doing that. No, he is trying to warn America about what I'm telling you right now.
No, he's trying to gain power for himself by manipulating gullible suckers, actually. That's what he's doing.
Talked about exactly what I'm talking about right now last night. This global elite cabal that they're on to coin a phrase, warp speed, because they need to implement all this stuff while they still have Joe Biden as a puppet in the White House. They control Joe Biden. Joe Biden has been praised by Klaus Schwab for decades as a main leader in the.
Now, if you missed the beginning part of this, Klaus Schwab is basically the leader of the World Economic Forum, or they believe him to be like the leader of the World Economic Forum, which is this organization that's desperately trying to implement this evil plan called the Great Reset, where they're trying to create a one world government and all kinds of other crazy nonsense. So Klaus Schwab is basically another one of their eternal boogeymen, like George Soros. He's up there with Soros, basically.
World Economic Forum, Great Reset, Fourth Industrial Revolution. He's also as compromised as we've ever had a president in terms of blackmail and bribery and corruption.
Joe Biden is compromised with blackmail and bribery and corruption. Well, I find it fascinating that they said that Joe Biden is more compromised with blackmail and corruption and bribery than Donald Trump. I mean, Trump is like notorious for being, decadent, for taking part in absolute debauchery, for lack of a better term. I mean, wasn't there rumor of like a dossier? Like, who knows if this dossier was actually real? I'm going to assume it's not. But there was rumor of a dossier on Trump, like a Russian dossier that showed him doing all kinds of questionable things in a Russian hotel room, right? And like I said, I don't really believe any of this, but none of the stuff that they claim none of the stuff they claim about Joe Biden and the blackmail that they claim is on him is true either. So I felt it's fair to bring it up since neither of the claims are true, as far as I'm concerned.
The World Economic Forum are the ones that are behind the stolen election. They're behind installing that regime. Everyone in the cabinets works for it. They hate Russia because Russia wants nothing to do with their Great Reset or their one world government. They hate China because China wants nothing to do with it. You're going to see they hate India. They hate Saudi Arabia. You're seeing who's dividing. Do I know what China and Russia's plans are? No. But I do know that they have no interest in the one world government that the World Economic Forum is forcing on the United
That's good.
States.
Well,
and
which
all of
says a
us.
whole lot. I had a friend in New York years and years ago, and I'd say, I did this for you, and I did, and I was younger, and he goes, "What'd you do for me lately?" It's
Right.
kind of a New York expression,
Right,
right?
exactly.
Okay, I live here and I haven't heard that, but I like it. I'm a fan.
Tell me what you did for me lately. Well, lately, um, Musk is behaving.
That's what
Uh,
I'm saying.
and that's what you're saying. And Flynn is behave. They're pulling for us.
Right.
The Bible says, "By your fruit you'll know them." Well, the fruit right now is good. It doesn't
Right.
prove that it will always be good, but it's pretty good right now. So,
Right. And if we live by the teachings of the Bible, the truth is not only can people change and repent, but they can
yes,
be, look at Saul, I mean,
yeah,
like we have to know that not only can people change and repent, but they can
yeah,
come back from wherever they are to greatness and good things and mass
totally.
change. Look, Elon Musk has done whatever he's done. I had Cash Patel on my show. He's telling me that he did good.
Kash Patel is another QAnon member, extremely influential within the QAnon movement and well known, and has been discussed by like Q, the guy who runs QAnon, at length.
Things for the Trump administration.
Good,
He's
good,
not
good.
making it up because Space Force is still out there. I think it is a force for good, and I believe that the DNI, the national intelligence, the military intelligence are still working for us. It is this regime, but we are watching it happen in real time. And I know we're running out, but I want people to know this: you can tell your banks, your governors, your local politicians, your any kind of like any commerce situation going on in your state. We can do this state by state.
Oh, yeah. In the last one, they were also talking about social credit scores and how the ultra rich are in the process of implementing social credit scores in the U.S. right now. And of course, this all, routes back to their persecution complex. Like, if they implement social credit scores, which, by the way, do exist in China, I don't think there's any appetite for that here in the U.S., but they're saying if they did implement social credit scores in the U.S., the very first set of people they'd target with it is Trump supporters. Anybody who likes Donald Trump because he's been trying to save the country this whole time from the deep state. And the deep state, or the cabal, aka the Illuminati, are, of course, the ones implementing these social credit scores or social credit score systems. So naturally, they want to take out anybody who likes Donald Trump. It's just this big fear-mongering nonsensical thing. So that's what she's kind of alluding to here is that conversation.
Which is why turning off over Roe versus Wade is most important, because it says the federal government has no place making laws that are supposed to be made by the state. It's really, the Roe versus Wade is less about abortion and more about giving the rights back to the states.
Wow, that's really interesting. So did she just say the federal government has no place making laws for all the states? Isn't that like exactly what the federal government does? Isn't that the federal government's job? Isn't that what it's supposed to do? Make laws for everybody because there are some issues that states simply shouldn't be deciding on? Like, for example, human rights? Like, if some state wanted to ban Trump supporters from living there, the federal government would say, no, you can't do that, for example. That's the kind of thing the federal government is there to do, isn't it? Like, what she's saying here, she's saying it with such confidence, and it's so nonsensical, honestly. It blows my mind that anybody believes her.
Constitutional republic. And I believe white hats are working behind the scenes because that's the route we're going.
White hats, as in secret agents that are working for Donald Trump in the government currently.
As soon as we excise the toxic waste dump that is DC and their dirty money, which is our money, that is our money.
Yes, it is.
And once we get it out of our states, every state could self-sustain if they had legit, honest America First leadership. We could get rid of the income tax if every state's books were looked through, if all the waste was gotten rid of, if they rejected DC, rejected DC's overlords, which is really a foreign entity. The crown has a lot to do with DC.
Dude, what is she talking about? This all sounds like complete nonsense to me. What is all this? Just as a side note here, the fact that we print our own money in the United States, or the fact that we're capable of printing our own money, means that there is actually a situation in which we wouldn't have to pay taxes. Like, it would be an option. If we wanted to set up a system of government where we don't pay taxes, that's possible. But that's just not the system that we have. We would have to completely restructure the way that our entire economy works, and that's not happening. It's simply not happening.
World Economic Forum, they're all compromised.
Oh, yeah, the World Economic Forum is like their eternal boogeyman, too. Like, they're constantly afraid of the World Economic Forum and what it's trying to do and all this other crazy stuff.
But the states can reject the ESG score. They can say companies can't do business in my state that are going to require this nonsense. And it's totally fraudulent. And then on top of that, I did want to tell you, though, and tell your audience, because I did notice, and it's very important to know, that the all three credit agencies this week, TransUnion and the other two.
TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax.
TransUnion, Equifax used to be one. I don't know.
Oh, there you go.
They changed it.
And Equifax, and there's one other. They just announced that they are going to be adopting the ESG score. So
ESG score, what she means by that is the social credit score, basically. And I didn't hear a word about that. Who said they're adopting a social credit score? They didn't say that. Equifax, Experian, or TransUnion. Like, none of them said that. This is complete nonsense. But this guy believes it, and so do the listeners. They will believe anything because they're gullible suckers.
They're literally adopting, so they're assigning an ESG score per person.
No.
Yes. And it used to be corporations. I knew it was coming for the people, but I thought that our country would be saved before it. Again, this is why 2020.
I thought our country would be saved before a social credit score system appeared. I'm assuming she believed that because she thought Donald Trump was going to come in and save everybody and everything. Just, God, these people really do live in a fantasy land, a total fantasy land.
2022 is so important, and even if you're watching this and you voted for Joe Biden, or even worse right now, you didn't vote at all, you must vote.
Yeah.
Wow, voting for nobody is worse than voting for Joe Biden in their mind. I'm honestly a little bit surprised by that position. And aside from that, why vote? In her mind, isn't the election fraudulent and all this other stuff? Why bother? I don't understand. I mean, I believe that people should be voting, absolutely. And there was no election fraud, no systemic election fraud. That's just a complete fabrication on her part. Or not just on her part, but on many other people's part. But it seems to me that if they're so worried about this, why are they even bothering?
This isn't about Trump. We need people in there that turn around and say, no, we're not going to have a social credit score like China. We're not going to have predictive policing. You're not putting track and trace into our bodies.
Dude, I told you guys, she is an absolute nutter butter. She's listing all this stuff. Track and trace into our bodies? This goes back to the vaccine has a microchip in it bit. Why would they try to insert a microchip into your body when they're tracking you through your phone already and have been for like ever? Since we've had phones, they've been doing this. Seriously. Logic doesn't connect here. This isn't a logical group of people.
Have no business. We live in a free country where life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is our inalienable right from God. These people do not believe we have inalienable rights. They do not believe in the commons. They do not believe that we all have common ownership of nature, of air, of water. They don't believe that. They believe that.
Wait, does she believe we have common ownership of air and water and stuff? That's interesting. You know what that sounds like to me? That sounds like socialism a little bit, right? Is that socialism I'm hearing from her?
We are sucking up their resources because they are superior in race. They believe that they're a superior race.
Yeah, they
these
do.
people.
Says the white supremacist. Are you kidding me? These are the people who hate minorities and are doing or have always done everything that they could to make the lives of minority groups harder. And she's standing here saying that liberals are the white supremacists. You must be joking, please.
And that we humans need to be depopulated, basically, to preserve their future. When they try to talk about sustainable goals, everyone must understand it's only sustainable for them.
Who is them? Who is this them person that they're talking about right now? I don't understand. This is called weasel words. When people do this, when they use some amorphous them that they don't really specify, it's a method of obfuscating the conversation and making people fearful of some shadow group that doesn't exist. Some set of beliefs from a group of people who don't actually believe it in the first place.
Not for us.
Well, that's why,
where we are.
human trafficking, even though it's as evil can be, in their brain, they have decided that they're worthy of life, and everyone else that's not is worthy to be trafficked.
Yeah, they believe that the left is trafficking people, children specifically. Remember, these people are QAnoners, so.
They don't
Brutalized, whatever,
Yeah.
they're there to be used. And
Yeah, that's all the left they believe. The entire left believes these things. That's insane.
let me go back to Trump here for a moment. Now, I've said repeatedly, I'm going to say it again on the show, Trump is not the savior of the world. Jesus Christ is the savior of the world, okay? Trump is not the savior. But
I find it really interesting that he drew that distinction, and it's a little controversial in some of these circles that he runs in.
Cyrus was one of those who God used, and he prophesied 150 years before he was born. He prophesied him by name as someone that would free Israel and let them go back to their country. I believe Trump is one of those human beings. He's a mortal human being like us, who has been told what was coming, who saw what was coming, who
Oh, wow, that's fascinating. Hang on, let me step back and listen to that one more time.
prophesied him by name as someone that would free Israel and let them go back to their country. I believe Trump is one of those human beings. He's a mortal human being like us, who has been told what was coming, who saw what was coming, who knew what was coming.
Who was told what was coming by who? God? I mean, who told him these things? Was it Jesus or what?
And he didn't need to work. He was independently wealthy for the rest of his life. He could have never run. He had
Yeah, have you ever heard of power hunger before? Have you ever heard of people who are absolutely obsessed with holding power at any cost? That is very obviously Donald Trump. I don't know how you can look at the situation and see it any other way, honestly. The guy obviously is just power hungry.
enough power in his circles, but God put it on his heart to run, because though God is the savior, Trump is a human being on earth that he's using. And is it true? Would you say that
I find it fascinating that he felt the need to specify that. Why did he feel the need to specify that? Like, if this was not turning into a religious cult, I feel like there would honestly be absolutely no need for him to bother specifying that Donald Trump is just a human being. It's just really strange to me that these QAnoners keep clarifying, or some of the QAnoners, not all of them. In fact, not very many of them. This is the first time I've heard it from a QAnoner. This QAnoner specifically right here, the guy on the left of the screen, felt it necessary to specify that Donald Trump is a human being and that Jesus is actually the savior of the earth, not Donald Trump.
deep state, whatever words you use, the deep state, the cabal, the World Economic Forum, all the way up to the top, are they freaking out right now because they're afraid Trump is going to get in?
Yeah, they've been freaking out from the minute he came down that escalator because they all loved him before that. And I'll tell you what, my feeling is, and I worked at Mar-a-Lago when I was younger between jobs. It was a good job to get by when I was trying to make money to go back to Hollywood at one point. And I'll tell you what, he loves his family and he loves his grandchildren, and he has a lot of them. And
Donald Trump? I think Donald Trump loves Donald Trump. I think it's really as simple as that.
I also know that both all of his past, everything he's done in the past was learning and growing and everything. He's always been really into America. He loves America. He loves American history. If you see him in real life, like I worked with him when I was a kid, he's so funny and friendly and nice and treats everyone. I've said this a million times from what I observed at Mar-a-Lago, from like the lowest gardener to the CEO to world leaders that stayed there when I was there. It's so funny when people say that Trump didn't know anything about foreign policy. Well, I worked there when dignitaries that are the biggest and the most powerful people in the world stayed at Mar-a-Lago.
Knowing dignitaries and understanding foreign policy are two completely different things.
So I saw it with my own eyes. He knew a lot more than sitting in a boardroom at some event at the UN with people staying at his house for 10 days, with Secret Service from people all over the world that have more power than people can imagine in Trump's home. So, and that was about 15, 20 years ago. So I can only imagine who else came through. But people stay at Mar-a-Lago because it's so secure.
Well, I can give you an idea of who else came through. I know Jeffrey Epstein was kind of close with Donald Trump. I'm just putting that out there.
And beautiful, and he's such a good guest, a host, but the truth is, his life was so good, and he has such a good family, and they're such good people, and.
No to all of that, but I know what she's building up to right now. She's building up to the idea that Donald Trump didn't have to run. He did it because he loves the country and he knows he's the only one who can save it. No, the guy loves power. That's really what it's all about. That's what it's always been about for Donald Trump. I have seen absolutely no evidence to indicate to me that Donald Trump loves the country. In fact, I've seen evidence to the contrary consistently.
I feel for him because I don't think and I've heard from people that have talked to him even recently, he knew that it was a cesspool and it was a swamp. He didn't realize how deep it went. And I will tell you, they didn't let him do anything. Everything was set up. The impeachments, the Russia hoax, all of that. And we should all be furious that they stole that entire 4 years from us. They didn't steal the election from Trump. They stole it from us. We have an alien.
They didn't steal it from anybody because it wasn't stolen. And who is this they that you're even talking about right now? Seriously. These people live in a fantasy land, and they can't even show evidence for the claims that they make. Like, I would love a little evidence of election fraud. None to be found.
Rights given by God, but we also have rights in our Constitution.
You know what? That's unfair. There is actually evidence of election fraud. Every case of election fraud that I have seen so far has been a Republican voting for their dead husband or wife or father or whoever else and casting it for Trump to outweigh the supposed cheating that the Democrats were going to engage in. I haven't seen a single example yet of a Democrat cheating in the election so far. I'm not saying it hasn't happened or whatever. I just have seen absolutely no evidence for it. And that makes sense that we're seeing election fraud coming from Republicans because Donald Trump went to North Carolina, I believe, while the voting was going on and said this to his fans, if you remember. September 2nd, 2020.
600,000 people could vote by absentee in this state. Are you confident in that system?
Well, they'll go out and they'll vote, and they're going to have to go and check their vote by going to the poll and voting that way because if it tabulates, then they won't be able to do that. So let them send it in and let them go vote. And if their system
That's illegal.
System's as good as they say it is, then obviously they won't be able to vote. If it isn't tabulated, they'll be able to vote. So that's the way it is.
600.
Not only is it illegal to do that, as far as I knew, I thought it was illegal to even suggest that your voters go vote twice. I thought it was illegal to tell your voters to cheat, but here we sit, still no charges for that, so I don't know, maybe it's not. I mean, we have the words coming right out of his mouth here, so I don't know how much more clear-cut it can get. The point is, Donald Trump directly instructed his voters, his cult members, to cheat in the election for him, to give him an edge in the election. It doesn't get more clear than that. So go on, Mel and Steve Schultz. Continue telling us about how Democrats cheated.
And as citizens of the United States, and that means that we get to decide who works for us. And again, we are a government of the people, by the people, for the people. We are the government. They are supposed to be representing us. Well, the people in D.C. don't represent us. And here's the great part about that. They need us to comply to have any authority. They don't have authority without.
See, this is where it starts to get disturbing. This is basically her encouraging civil war, pretty much. If people refuse to follow the laws, then there's nothing they can do. They need us to follow the laws, or they don't have a country. That's what she's saying. So they're saying we should just stop following the laws. We should just walk right into Congress and take it over if we want, because they're breaking the laws anyways, so we might as well.
Without us complying. And again, also there is any law or rule that is repugnant to the Constitution is null and void, basically. You can't.
Wait, okay. If there is a law that contradicts the Constitution or is unconstitutional, it is not null and void. The Supreme Court decides on whether or not it's null and void. What she's probably thinking of here is if a military order is given that is unconstitutional, it is null and void, and you are required by law or whatever to ignore that order. There's a very clear, distinct difference between the two things, between what she just said and what is actually represented in reality.
Be overthrown. So everything that they've done can be reversed, and we can stop this social credit score and the central bank digital currency and all this stuff. But we have to stop it, like you said in the beginning.
Wait, she didn't... Okay, so the last episode that I covered her in, she talked a lot about the social credit score. I didn't hear a word about digital currency. This is new.
Trump wanted to do everything by the Constitution. He wanted to trust the legal system, no matter how bad it's bitten.
Donald Trump wanted to trust the legal system and wanted to follow the laws and all that stuff? Are we talking about the same dude? I don't think we are.
Him and General Flynn and others. And he's doing that. And the Durham case is going to be the beginning of that. But what we really need to know is each of us has to take back our own sovereignty and stop feeding into the next show we'll do. And I'll tell everyone about the actual psychological army manual for psychological mind control for behavioral change that went from our military to the World Health Organization and is implemented right now. But what we need to do as God's children, as people God put on planet Earth, on this beautiful planet that has everything we need. There is no overpopulation. It's a lie. There is no climate emergency. It's man-made by the people that are saying that they need money to fix it.
This is so sad, dude. Seriously. This is the reason why we're in the situation that we're in right now. Because of people like this. Because people have convinced these gullible suckers that there is no climate emergency. In the previous episode, I talked about how you can see Russia's fingerprints all over this. You can see Putin's fingerprints all over it. And this is another good example of finding Putin's fingerprints all over it. A couple of other examples I gave in the previous episode, or one of the previous episodes, was anytime these QAnon people talk about, like, Russia, it's always positive. Or the Ukraine war, it's always favorable for Putin. They mimic a lot of the same propagandistic talking points that Russia was using, like when they first started the war, like, for example, claiming that Russia is fighting neo-Nazis and, all that other nonsense. All the same nonsensical talking points that Russia tried to push down people's throats when the war first started. The QAnon people are repeating it. And here's another perfect example. Russia thinks that climate change will be a good thing for them because it's going to open up parts of northern Russia that were previously inaccessible, basically. Russia is convinced that climate change getting worse is going to make the situation more favorable for them. They think that it's going to open up farmland in northern Russia that was previously inaccessible, basically. So anyways, the point is that this woman very obviously is getting a lot of her talking points from Russia. I mean, she's a QAnoner, so naturally she's getting a lot of her talking points from Russia.
And the whole thing about money, remember you said in the beginning, why do they need more money? Because if we have no money, they control us. If we have no, because the whole thing, it's not about
so you're saying
money.
even though you're
Wait, is she, it sounds like she's speaking out against wealth inequality here, right? So she should be in favor of unions, shouldn't she? Seems to me, right? Democrats have proposed all kinds of laws throughout the country to decrease wealth inequality. Is she in favor of those laws and or those Democrats? Or does she believe that they're actually Luciferian, Satanists? It's the latter.
saying even though they don't really need the money, they got quadrillions, they need to take it from us.
There's no such thing as a quadrillionaire. That does not exist. In all of human history, that has never existed. The richest person to ever exist was a guy named Masa Musa, and he had the equivalent of $400 billion in today's money. Basically, half the world's supply of gold. And he traveled across the continent of Africa, I think, tipping the hell out of people all the way through and crashing local economies because of how much money he was just handing out to people like mad.
So that we're subservient to them, because that's the one thing they don't have is absolute servanthood from us. We're not bending the knee like they want us to.
Right, Larry.
Right, who is asking you to bend a knee to them? Is anybody? Has Joe Biden? Hell, has Donald Trump even specifically requested his fans bend their knee and bow their head to him? I haven't heard that. I don't know how well that'd go over. Probably really, really well with a small subset of them. But I haven't heard it.
Think says out loud that the whole ESG, the whole central bank digital currency, the whole Great Reset is about behavior modification of humanity. Behavior modification. Well, that's up to God. But here's
a lot of the things that she just mentioned, the Great Reset and all this other stuff, it's very light on details. It doesn't really specify exactly what it is. So, like, none of these people specify exactly what it is. It's all just this big, all-encompassing conspiracy theory about how people are trying to control you and modify your behavior and all this other stuff. It never gets more specific than that, honestly. The Great Reset specifically doesn't. But they believe, included in the Great Reset conspiracy theory, is the idea that they're trying to inject a tracking chip under your skin and, I don't know, take all of the money from the poor and give it all to the wealthy and just all kinds of crazy stuff.
the great part about all this. A, we wouldn't know this. B, they keep showing us what they're doing. You know, it's the arrogance and the ignorance of arrogance, because we're seeing it. And the more I come on here, or you talk about it, or you talk about the election theft, or any of that. Look, the election theft is the same people.
It's the exact same actors.
It's so crazy that, like, even today, so they announced monkeypox. Well, I'll tell you what, Bill Gates announced it 18 months ago.
What? They announced monkeypox. Who is they? And what do you mean by announced monkeypox? Monkeypox has been around as an illness for like a long, long time, right? Since 1970. It was first documented in 1970 in 6 unvaccinated children during the smallpox eradication efforts. The first being a 9-month-old boy in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. So I'm not sure what she means by Bill Gates announced monkeypox 18 months ago. Monkeypox cases were not spreading like they are now 18 months ago. It was growing. It was getting more concerning as time went on. You know what? Was it even getting concerning 18 months ago? I don't think so. Like, everything they say is nonsensical, not based in fact. It's just garbage, like all the way down.
Shockingly, while Fauci's still doing gain-of-function research in Wuhan.
Well, it's more propaganda. That gain-of-function research in Wuhan, complete nonsense. Fauci was not performing gain-of-function research in Wuhan. This is propaganda primarily propagated by Rand Paul to further his fundraising efforts. That's mainly why he was doing it. The U.S. NHS, is that what it's called, or the National Institute of Health, or whatever it is in the U.S., they have funded various research projects across the world and in the United States to understand viruses better. And that type of research is the exact reason why we have vaccines in the first place for things like monkeypox or COVID or whatever else. The fact that we're funding that research in the first place is what leads to these cures. But these people are obsessed with there being some kind of a conspiracy. It's all a secret. It's a conspiracy, and Fauci is out to get us. He's trying to hurt people. He's got nefarious plans. It's ridiculous, dude. You can't be serious with this. But sadly, they are. Sadly, they are.